I'm Karel, the co-founder of Karel. We're a remote monitoring platform for chronic kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease is one of the fastest growing global health problems you actually may not have heard of. Surprisingly, 850 million people around the world have chronic kidney disease. The primary causes being diabetes and high blood pressure. And once you have it, there is no cure. When a patient reaches towards the end stage of chronic kidney disease, they have two options: to go on dialysis or have a kidney transplant. I know myself because I've had a kidney transplant in 2012. And the costs are absolutely staggering. Just across Australia, UK, and UK was $130 billion. And there's been a lot of work from Donald Trump in Congress to kind of reverse this, particularly over the past 12 months. Even though CKD can be slowed down with behavior change, it is exponentially growing more and more and more. And by 2040, it is caused to be the 5th leading cause of mortality around the world. One of the core reasons behind this is a broken cycle of kidney care, which kind of leads to an increase in hospital costs and poorer health outcomes. As a patient myself, you live the illness every single day, yet you rarely see your clinician, so you struggle to change your behavior. And on the clinician side, they don't really have the time and the means to manage these mountains of patients, and particularly the high-risk patients, which cost a lot of money. So the real problem we're tackling is that clinicians really struggle to deliver the care that patients need. So meet Karel, the kidney assistant reframing everyday life, a one-stop shop for remote monitoring chronic kidney disease. We've thought about it both sides. On the patient side, we reframe everyday life, a behavior change tool, an app that's live in the App Store, reframing your body, mind, and life with a number of tools embedded. We've also plugged in directly to a predictive tool for clinicians, helping them treat their patients, delivering quality online care, enhancing clinical workflow, and reducing costs. The kidney disease market is massive, but as an early stage startup with only 2 people in our team, we want to focus on where the biggest cost is, which is primarily dialysis, transplant, and end stage patients across our key markets, which are USA, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. However, you can see where it can grow to with 850 million people across the world. Our core business model is B2B, primarily with hospitals and providers at $10 per patient per month, which gives us a projected revenue of 103 million just with that small primary audience. Our go-to-market beyond that, because we're patient-centered, is a freemium app that offers patients many services, but it also gives us a flow down for additional hospitals we want to speak to. As mentioned, our hospital is a SaaS model, and we also have other revenue streams which we're speaking to at the moment around tech, pharmaceutical, pharmacy, insurance as well. We've made great traction since launching the app stores, and we're active across 30 markets with the app. We have 20 pilot hospitals on board wanting to do trials, and we've actually established partnerships with major pharmaceuticals and other tech companies. Our team is myself. I've lived the experience, and I've got experience with leading consultancies and big brands. And my business partner, who's at 30 years in clinical sales and worked in the NHS, he's based in Australia. I'm based in London. Our mission is to stop people with chronic kidney disease from ever needing a dialysis or a transplant. And we're different because we're co-designed with patients and clinicians and research. Thank you.
Thank you so much for great pitch. Dear judges, let's start Q&A session.
Yeah, I would like to ask, like, why would the hospitals pay for it? Like, did you check what's the reason for paying?
The reason to pay is primarily reducing costs. So the key markets we've gone for primarily are public health. And what we're wanting to do is reduce the costs of high-risk patients. So hospitals pay a lot for end-stage patients, and particularly kidney patients with readmissions into hospital, clinical workflows of unneeded seeing patients. So the data helps them get their workflow better, and also kind of at the end of the day, gives a better outcome for the patients.
Karel, sorry, are you able to do the health economics on that? Do you have a clinical validation study that justifies how many days of hospital reduction that you're making?
So that's exactly the route that we're going to. And we've got our first trial set up with Monash Hospital in Melbourne, and that's about to kick off, I think, next month. So we've kind of built our products. We've got it in the app stores. We've got a really good cause. And the great thing is across the 20 hospitals that we're talking about, we've seeded that over the last 2 years because we know how slow healthcare can be. So we've seeded that across the UK, Australia, Canada, but primarily it's going to be clinically led research that's going to get us more hospitals.
Yeah, great, thank you. And are you eligible for the Australian export commercialization grants?
100%. So I'm Australian based in London, and my partner on this is a English guy that's based in Australia. So we kind of work both ends of UK and Australia.
Okay, great, thanks.
Karel, fantastic work. I'm curious in the rollout to date, what sort of unobvious and interesting insights have you gleaned from the data?
I think the most interesting insight is that the amount of patients that are reaching out to us that are saying like, oh my God, I need this. It's just like, it's such a big hole in the system that I've lived for kind of 20 years, but knowing that that hasn't been built, and it's not the patient's fault. And it's also not the doctor's fault, as you can see from the cycle, because doctors are focused on mortality. They've got so much to deal with, and patients are just screaming out for help. And they're just like, these small little changes we've built with the MVP has just seen an overwhelming response from patients.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions out, guys?
Yeah, Karel, Karel, you also mentioned about the fact that, just by monitoring behavioral change, you can end the need for dialysis and transplants. Now, that is a very tall claim. So do you have any empirical data to support that?
I think the mission of the company is so deeply embedded in my life that I wouldn't want anyone else to really go through that in the future. We really put it there as a vision for the team, knowing full well that if we make a dent in 5%, it's going to affect millions of lives. So completely take that on board. It's our vision, maybe 30, 40 years from now, 50 years, that could be accomplished. But I think tomorrow that's going to be very difficult.
All right, thank you
So much. Next question, please.
Yeah, I just want, because so great presentation, Karel. I just saw in the map that like there was a project in my region. So if you could elaborate on that, just to see what type of collaboration, or I assume it's a trial.
Yeah, so the hospitals we've seeded are I'm based in London, and obviously with lockdown, I haven't really been able to leave my house too much with a kidney transplant, but we've managed to get hospitals in the markets where we really deeply understand the healthcare ecosystem. So that's UK, Australia, US, Canada, and New Zealand. You might have seen the dot, the gray dot on, that's basically patients that have downloaded the app that are interacting. So because we've got a two-sided business model and we're solving two problems, behavior change and clinical trials and research and kind of prediction, I think you might have seen the region of patients that are downloading showing the need to kind of help change their behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, this disease is like chronic disease, whether it's kidney, diabetes, are closely interlinked, and
Exactly.
this region needs it badly. So yeah, curious to see the development. Best of luck.